So what we're going to do today is talk about Magnificent Flying Machines. Now, this is a game with a tremendous amount of scope for variety and customization. We've got 19 different pilots, we've got 24 bits of equipment, as well as the 6 different flying machines. And because of all that variety, when you open the box for the first time, or when you come and see us at a physical convention and we're demoing the game, we tend to use the presets. These are the use this pilot with this flying machine, these bits of equipment, and load it up this way. And the purpose of those is to enable people to have something that will be serviceable, something that will get them through the game. And if everyone is using presets, everyone has an equal chance of winning. But it doesn't maximise the capabilities of any of the flying machines, and also it doesn't give you access to the full variety of the game. So what we thought we'd do today is actually demonstrate just how you go about customising from scratch and using all those other pieces of equipment and individuals. So this stream today is just going to be that whole setup process and choice, and then next week we'll have another stream where we actually play the game using those, and you can see just how different it can be from the standard setup. So over to you, Richard, to remind me just how we get to do this thing.
Right, okay then. So I'm going to transition across here to the Tabletopia setup. We're using Tabletopia for a lot of these demonstrations just because it's quicker to get everything out on the table and run through, especially if a couple of us are trying to run a game on different computers and things. But these are all the bits replicated from the physical game, and the artwork is identical to what you're seeing here. The only things that are slightly a little bit different are some of the individual physical components, like these stand-up fly machines, although they still are physical stand-up fly machines in the real game, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're little plastic stands that you then put the flying machine into, whereas here we've just got larger chunky things that stand up on their own. They're rather nice, actually. I think we do another edition of the game, might just make them that way. Quite good.
And likewise the dice, sort of as close as we can get them to the to what the physical things are. The cubes are fairly standard things, so that was easy enough. Okay, so how do we actually set up a full version of the game? So in the rules there are a quick setup which is designed to get you going straight away, but what we're going to do is a more full-on standard setup where there'll be quite a bit of variety. Now, what one choice we're going to make right at the start is there is what we call the standard game, and then there is a fully random game. Now, the fully random game can potentially have the tiles in pretty much any order, and that I think is something which can be entertaining, but it can be a little bit make it more difficult to play because sometimes things are turning up
You might have 3 mountains in a row, or you might have no mountains in the first half, or something like that.
So we're going for a slightly less random setup. We've got the standard setup. So to start with, what we're actually going to do is we're going to take one of each of these terrain tiles. You'll see I've already put in place the 3 airfields about where they going to go: the initial airfield, the starting airfield, the middle airfield, and the end airfield there.
And those always have to be in the same order because they do different things, basically.
They do. Now, in a fully random setup, I would literally then be shuffling together all the remaining tiles and putting them in any old order between these airfield tiles. But,
because of course there are more terrain tiles in the game than there actually are tiles in the standard setup. There are additional ones as well. So we've got 15 in box.
So 15 in the box. Yeah. So the very final it goes up to tile 11, and then I think there are 4 more tiles numbered after that. So what we're going to do though is I'm going to here I've sorted out the tiles into terrain types. So we've got fields here, we've got our towns, we've got our water areas, and we've got our mountains.
So what we want to make sure is that in each half of the draw we're going to have one of each type of tile.
That's right.
So I'll take one from each pile here.
Yeah. Okay, so then we can do the same thing on the second half of the tile, second half of the draw, just taking one from each of them like that. Whoop, hello. I'll just pull that into my hand, pull that down there. One of those, and one of those, like that. And the spare other tiles that we're not going to need, I'm going to just put to one side over here, and in a moment I'll be tidying those away. So you should have over there, Jane, 4 tiles, and I've got 4 tiles as well. I've got a mountain, I've got a water area, I've got a town one, and I've got a field area.
Okay, I've somehow got 2 waters here.
Ah, okay, that was interesting.
So I've got a town.
Yeah.
There's a water.
Yeah.
There's a town.
Mm-hmm.
There's a field.
And what you need is a mountain.
So what I need is a mountain.
Okay,
yes.
I must have done something silly with the shuffling of those earlier. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so we've each now got...
So mountain, let's just check.
Yeah.
Field.
Yeah.
Town.
And water.
And water.
So what I'm going to do is I've now put it into a deck. I'm going to flip the whole deck over, and then I'm going to randomly draw tiles from here in any order like that. So let's have this tile here. Let's get it to place, and I'm going to flip it like that. So right away after the airfield, we're into a mountain situation there by the look of things. Obviously, in the physical game, it's easier just to shuffle these and shove them alongside each other. Takes a little bit more in the Tabletopia version, which is why, of course, all the setups that we do we've already done this process for you, so you don't have to do. But if you're going to do this full-on version, you're just going to have to live with it a little bit. There we are. I've got my side of the course done. How's it going over there? Yeah, interesting. We have a town right next to the final airfield there. So
we've also got a town right next to the opening airfield. So a couple of passengers could end up having very short flights.
Right. So I'm just going to get rid of these spare tiles. Tabletopia has a neat little function called a bag function, which we use quite a bit in the Nine Worlds version of Nine Worlds game. Basically, it's a bottomless bag of holding that you can put stuff into. So we tend to use it as a rubbish bag there, just to tidy it all up a little bit. Okie doke. Are we alright for space there? Just about, aren't we? Yeah.
So we've got mountains either side of the airfield. That was an interesting location for the middle airfield.
That's right. So maybe this is an airfield in the Alps or something.
Yeah.
And at one point we were thinking about doing a few sort of courses based on different actual historical races that did occur, which would obviously therefore mean that there might be a sort of particular layout to follow. Okay, so we've got our tiles out. The next thing we have to do is put passengers on. So
I'm just trying to line this up a bit.
Yeah, that's fine. You tie it up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is wherever there is a pink tile, I'm going to zoom in now, and let's wait for Jane to sort of sort out that second tile there. It's proving a little bit difficult. Of course, this one's slightly out, isn't it? But there we go. Okay, this is what Tabletopia is good for the initial setup, but sometimes you need to fiddle around with it to get it right. Okay, so that's done. So now I'm looking along these little things here where there are these pink little markers, and this tells me that this I need 1 or 2 passengers. It'll be 1 if we're playing a 3 or 4 player game, and also 2 player game, because 2 player game, as we'll be showing you, we're each going to have 2 fly machines. So if it was a 5 or 6 player game, we would use the second number. So this first one needs a passenger on, just like that. So I'll drop it on. The second one needs a passenger, but not on this third tile, nor do we want one on this mountain tile, but we do want 2 in the airfield. So 1, put that there, and
nothing on the next one, but 1 on this one.
okie dokie. That's that across to you there. And we want 0, and then we want 1 in that final town. Yeah. Okay. That's done for passengers. Okay. Next thing we're going to be doing is sorting out the cargo. Now what I had to do, and I've already just quickly done this before we started, was to pull out 3 mountain and 3 water cargo, because these are going to be randomly given to us on our flying machines at the start of the game. The other water, mountain, field and town cargoes have all been basically shuffled into this little deck here, and now what we need to do is populate the course. So there are 2 cargo tiles that we'll need here, so I'll pop that on there, and I can then just flip that over. That's the mountain one.
You need to just check when you do this that you aren't having anything that matches the terrain tile that
That's
you're
correct, yes. If you get that scenario, then what you have to do is put the thing to one side there. So here, this tile can't be placed because it's a what do you call it, a field tile.
So move it over to the next one maybe that needs
well, what we do is you put it in the bottom of the deck, and then you come to it later if it needs to be. So that's a town there, that's fine, that will fit. And the water, so we're okay on that one. And then this one needs 1 like that, and that is grass, so that's fine. And the mountain doesn't need 1. And then we're on to the airfield. So the second half of the course, starting with the middle airfield, is going to need randomised what are called general cargo. So the general cargo I want again sorted out the stack here.
And those are all going to go to the final airfield only, and we don't need to worry because some of them are 1 point, some of them are 2 points, but they're all going to the same place, so we don't have to worry about which square they go on. It doesn't matter what the terrain is.
So 1 point, a 1 point, and a 1 point there. Okay, so that's and you can get somewhat different situations happening here. These were shuffled, sort of in some sort of random order. But there we go. And what we need for the next one is that a 1 there. Let's see, yeah. And then we need 1 there. What about that town at the end? 2, is that say? So that's 2.
Sorry, I didn't mean to look at that terrain tile.
We may do these terrain tiles now they're in place, is lock them in position.
I thought I had locked everything. So I haven't quite managed to lock that one. Yes, it's 2 that needs.
Okay, so that's fine. You want to take that and plug it and flip it? So okay, so that's us basically done with cargo. We then need to put the weather tiles out. These are all over here. We always leave 1 off the first airfield.
Because you want to start the race in sunny weather.
Yeah, we flip the second one, and then all the others are just done like that.
They are, but you've got them all upside down.
Yeah. Hang on. Yeah. What about that at the moment? Okay.
So you put them out, I'll turn them round.
Yeah. I think actually they that's right. And then you turn them around. That's helpful, isn't it? I'll actually put them on the thing upside down. Never mind. Just to be useful. Okay. There we go.
So I will carry on sorting these out. Yes, I mean it's Here
we go. Right. So the next thing is the first to land markers, and these are shown on the tile. So here we've got a number here that says number 2. That means we need a 2-point victory marker. There's 1 there. Drop that 1 on there. This one is a field with just a 1 point. The water area next to it will get a 3-point marker on. And then the one next to the airfield will be a 4-pointer. Likewise, we have another 4-pointer on the far side of the thing. Oh, we're still wobbling around after our lake over there at the moment, which is 3 points. Oh, it is. Our field is going to get 1 point, and our town right at the end, I think it's a 2-point one. Yeah, 2 points. Okay.
So again, if you can see that landing in the mountains is a much more difficult thing to do, so that's why you get more victory points for that. It's a more impressive sight. even though there might be fewer people to witness it.
Okay, right. We're going to need to also place the what do you call it now? What we call the race stage place markers. So
the things at the end and at the middle airfield, so people arriving in that order.
Okay, so we're playing a 2-player game, but we basically do it as if it's a 4-player setup. So we're going to need a 7, a 4, and a 3.
So 3 goes first.
Yeah. So there's our 3. I'll put that on there. And we need to find and we need a 3 on both airfields actually. So I think we just move the 2s out of the way because we don't need those. There's our 5, which we're going to need for the final one. So we need an 8, a 5, and a 3 for the final airfield. We need a 7, 4, 3 for the middle airfield.
So that's got a 3 on.
Yeah.
Give it a 4.
Yeah, I'll put the 3 on there, which is our first one here.
And then a 7.
5, and I need an 8 over here for the final airfield. Okay, fine.
So as we're doing this slowly, now you can appreciate quite how long it took Richard to set up all the fixed layouts for the 3, 4, 5 and 6-player games and 2-player games. So yes.
Right, so we are good to go with that's the course done. Now we are starting the process of setting up our pilot. So the first thing we need to decide is who is first player. So the way we do that is we each grab 5 of these dice. 2, 3, 4, 5. You grab 5, Jane. And we're going to roll all of these. There we are. And I think I've got them all selected. So I'm just going to do a roll action here. Which is, where has it gone? There it is. Ba-dumph. And I'm looking for flying symbols. So I've got 5 flying symbols on my dice here.
Okay.
What do you get over there? Oh, that's one of them old. There is a sort of select all function in Tabletopia, but sometimes it's easier on some keyboards and mice and things like that to select all of them. I find I can just fairly easily draw a box around all of them, but it isn't always the case.
Well, okay. I've only got 3.
You got 3. So I'll be going as first player, which actually means you get first dibs on pilots. The way it's going to work is that normally in a if this was a 4-player game, if I was first player, the player to my right, who's the 4th player, would get first choice for a pilot, and the 3rd player, then the 2nd player, then round to me. And the same thing applies for flying machines and equipment and so on. So as first player, I've got an advantage in the game, but I'm going to get to choose last. In a 2-player game, we actually alternate players. I've still got a fractionally slight advantage as first player, so Jane gets to choose her pilots first. So the first thing we do is we lay out 6 of these pilots. And we'll have a look and see who we've got. And we're going to actually have a look at these a little bit, just to sort of do a bit of strategizing on this.
Yes. So, in the full version of the game, different pilots have different abilities, and it really depends on what sort of person you want to play. Some pilots work better with certain types of flying machine than others. And of course, when you're choosing your pilot, you haven't yet chosen your flying machine.
That's correct.
So yes. This is always a possibility.
So we have got, what have we got now? Corey Parata. He's a New Zealand pilot. He's the Barnstormer, and he basically gets an extra victory point every time he does a trick manoeuvre.
So if you're going to have him, ideally you'd want him to be having something like the monoplane, which has lots of flying symbols and can do a lot of trick manoeuvres. You certainly wouldn't want him in a helicopter. That would be a bit unfortunate, because how often have you seen helicopters in real life doing loop-the-loops and so on? It's just not a thing.
Right, so Sikoshi Akimoto is the Japanese pilot. He is the all-rounder, so he gets an extra dice for all of the skill test, taking off, flying, and landing.
So he would be useful with any type of flying machine, really.
Yeah.
Particularly maybe something like the triplane, which itself has 555. You then got 666. You've got a set of very good statistics there.
Yeah. Okay. Then you've got Adriana Belhinda from. I can't remember what the flag is. Is she from Argentina?
I think she's actually
Peruvian.
Peru.
She's Peruvian. That's right. She's a Peruvian pilot, and she gets to re-roll. I think it's 2 dice in a turn. Is that right?
2 dice in a phase.
2 dice in a phase. Yes. Yeah,
So that's a very powerful thing.
Yes.
And that would obviously be useful with absolutely any plane.
Yes, indeed.
Now, I said about choice of pilot is partly to do with your game style. So the next one is very much that. Sir Archibald Smythe,
Yeah. So
who is the CAD.
He
He
is
has a
definitely
CAD
a CAD.
symbol.
Yeah.
He is interested not so much in doing well himself, but in making sure that nobody else is doing well.
Yes, the rotten egg he is described as. So
really, and his main ability is that he always has a CAD symbol that he can use. So every time the other person is about to roll, he's always in a position to make them lose.
Well,
a
he only
dice.
has one until his next turn, but yes, but every single time,
He has that, whereas
got-
other
yeah.
people only have that if they happen to have the appropriate symbol
Yeah.
on the bottom of their cards in their hand. So you could go for several turns without having a CAD symbol available. But clearly, if you're the sort of person who always likes to win a game in a positive manner by doing well as opposed to playing dirty tricks on other people, Sir Archibald Smythe is not for you. And we do have rules for a less dirty game where Sir Archibald Smythe actually gets removed from the deck altogether. But we've left him in here.
Absolutely. Then we've got Eleanor Mwangi. She is a Kenyan pilot, and she is the mechanic, I believe, the super mechanic. So she basically can repair a damage when she takes off, which is great because it means you can sort of sustain 1 damage and not to worry too much about it, because every time you get back in the air, you repair it.
And she also always has a spare landing part.
No, that's extra dice for doing landing tests.
Yes, and
rolls
a
with extra
spare
dice.
an extra landing dice, yes.
And finally, in this selection, we have Condesa Isabella Sanchez, and I think he's Spanish, and she has 2 extra dice for landing and 1 for taking off. And she is the keen and eager. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, really good to get up in the air, as it were. She's extra 2 dice for.
It's the other way around, actually, isn't it? Looking at it, there's 2 extra takeoff dice.
2 extra, yes.
And one
Two
extra
takeoff
landing
and
dice.
1 landing.
So obviously, with her,
Yeah.
you're not going to want her with a flying machine which is already very good at takeoff and landing. So again, not much use with the helicopter. You're going to
Something
want
like
her.
the seaplane, which is or the biplanes, which are difficult to get in the air sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, so you're choosing one of those pilots, and then we're going to get a replacement to look at.
Okay, so I think that by far the most powerful out of those is going to be Adriana, because dice re-rolls in a dice game is always very handy.
Yep.
So I'm going to select her.
You've set that to your hand for a minute. Yep, okay. Right, so let's flip over. Let's just flip over a replacement here. What do we get? Okay. We've got Krishna Karni, who are Indian pilots. And I think he's the...
He has 2 extra victory points every time he takes a passenger somewhere.
That's right. So he's good to consider when you've got a situation. He's the tour guide. That's right. So he's good if you've got situations that you have lots of capacity for pilots and things
For passengers.
passengers.
So
Yeah.
probably not the best in a monoplane, because monoplanes don't have much space.
Yes. Well, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do this thing. I'm going to be Sir Archibald Smythe. Okay. Why not? Let's put that to one side for a minute over here. Right. Let's see your next choice then. It's going to be this card here.
Vladimir, the Russian.
Yeah.
So his particular thing
Yeah.
is during the game, he's got 4 times when he gets any spare part of his choice. So he's got 4 universal spare parts available.
Which is always very useful. because that basically is 4 additional cargo spaces almost. If you look at it that way, and they're all available. You don't have to worry about them being inside your hold and not available to you.
So he would be particularly useful with something like the monoplane, which is very lacking in storage space.
Yeah.
Because that means he's just got the spare parts. You don't need to worry about carrying those. You can then use the actual space in your plane for a passenger, potentially. Okay, so it's my turn to choose again. Vladimir is tempting. The all-rounder is tempting.
What's it going to be?
I quite like passengers. I quite like picking up and taking passengers places.
What's he thinking of?
However, the all-round, just 1 extra on everything, that's also quite attractive. I don't know. What shall I do?
Well,
actually, I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go for the damage reduction and so on. So that's going to enable me to be a little bit more daring, maybe, when I do things.
Okay, so the Frenchman comes out. Pierre Dupont. Pierre Dupont, I believe, if he gets ordinary damage, he can ignore it. Let's just check again. He doesn't catastrophically fail, is that right?
Yes.
On a flying test, only on a flying test, reduce any catastrophic failure to just a failure.
So what that means is, instead of crash landing at that point, having to do a landing test, you just fail to fly on.
So it means you can keep in the air a lot, potentially longer in that scenario, and you can push it through some of those more dodgy areas because you're not going to be forced down, basically. Quite good in the mountains, perhaps, or something like that. So let's. But I quite like the whereas Vladimir is quite good. Of course, once those 4 spare parts are gone,
they're
gone. It's good to have bonuses that sort of play through the whole game, I think. So I think I'm going to try just a bit more. So if one of my pilots is going to be a bit of a Dick Dastardly, potentially not getting very far because he's always causing trouble for everybody else, let's get a pilot to work with him that hopefully can keep going down his course a little bit. Right, so those are our pilots chosen. Yeah. Now we are choosing fly machines.
And we don't actually get rid of all those pilots just for now.
No, we don't, because they're available in case someone takes this 2-seater equipment, of course. So just move those off to move those to the side. Let's go with these dice because we've got a bit of space to put our fly machines out here. So yes, okay, I'll put that on now. Up over there. So you get basically a dibs at all six fly machines. So there and then like that. Let's flip that one around 90 degrees. So we have our monoplane. We have our thing here. I'll just rotate the table. I'll have a look at these actually. Just remind people about the various. Just arranging them a bit easier to make that a bit. Okay, I think they're all the right way around. Right, let me just rotate this table. And we'll look at this. Oh, I've got the one right at the top here, of course, inevitably is the wrong way around. There we go. Right.
Okay. So here we have all the bits of equipment. I must admit, my favourite flying machine is the helicopter. I really like the helicopter, and it suits my style of play because, generally speaking, I'm not somebody that plays lots of dirty tricks and does stuff. I much prefer just getting on with moving lots of things around.
So the helicopter is great at taking off and moving along, but a bit abysmal at moving down the course. So Jane's going to have to think about what she can do about that in a minute. Now, in my case, I've got this. I've got a couple of situations I want to have a think about. I think I've just moved accidentally some cargo there. I'll just move that out of the way. So let's go for something. Initially, So this is good for the old cargo running type things, the biplanes and the seaplanes. There's lots of cargo space in both of them. Struggle a bit to take off and land though. And neither of my guys have got particularly awesome stats because I've got the Dick Dastardly type and I've got the Sir Archibald Smythe is going to be playing tricks on Jane, and Pierre Dupont is basically going to be driving on, but therefore neither of them give them bonuses in the plane. So I don't want to get into anything that's a bit too risky. So I think for the moment actually something like the Pusher is quite a nice possibility to have for the time being. So I shall just move. I shall have the Pusher. I'll put it over there for a second. Alright, so back round to you then, Jane. What's your second flying machine going to be?
Okay, so my second flying machine, I do have an extra landing dice available because one of my pilots gives me extra landing dice.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to go for the triplane, which is a good all-rounder, and if I
slightly weak on the landing maybe.
But
so
if I have a pilot that then does that, then effectively I've got 5, 5 and 5 for everything.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. I think I'm going to go for one of the because I've got a feeling that it might take a while sometimes for Archibald Smythe to get anywhere if he still keeps on playing these tricks and things. So it might be worth me just going for something that's got some space or some speed. I think I'm going to go with one of the things like the biplane. Getting in the air could be entertaining with that, mind you, but there we go. No, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go with the monoplane. This could be a problem if I crash, but we'll see what happens. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of these two spare. I couldn't do that a minute. I'll just zoom in on that one. There we go. Let's swallow them out of the way. And there we go. Oh, that didn't work that time either.
Careful. You've just thrown all the equipment
have I just managed to take all the equipment out?
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Let's take 24 cards out, shall we?
Jolly good. There we are. Wonderful.
Right, let's put that back in the bag.
Yeah. You do have to be careful with these little rubbish bags. That can happen. Right, and that's the spare one. We don't want that one either.
Right, so the equipment then.
Since it's out. Okay, well, we're going to need 6 of these, so let's just get these back in.
Let's take these first 6 over here, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, on.
Go where you're putting them.
Yeah. 5 and 6. Right, why don't you choose one of them while let's just pull these in together like that.
Okay, so let's have a look at what we've got here.
Yeah.
The items available. The first one is a drop of courage.
Yeah.
And what this gives you is 3 extra dice. So if you've just failed a test, you can use a charge of this in order to take an extra dice, roll that. If that's no good, you can then roll another one up to a maximum of 3, but that's then all the charges of that used.
Yeah.
The next thing we have is the improved landing gear, which 3 times in the game enables you to roll an additional landing dice. So that's like my pilot can do that all the time, but this is just 3 times in the game. Remembering that you can always change equipment at the middle airfield, so it's really 3 times in the first half, as it were.
Yeah.
Then we have the finely tuned engine that gives you an extra takeoff dice throughout. Then we have the additional passenger seat. So that enables you to have a passenger without taking up 2 spaces inside the internal storage space. The new wing design, that gives you an extra flying dice throughout. And then we have the Lucky Locket, which means that you have basically 3 luck tokens. So luck tokens are what you normally get if you have one of those turns where everything goes wrong and you're worse off than you were when you started. You get a luck token, which you can then use to automatically pass a test in the future. If you've got the Lucky Locket, you've got that anyway 3 times. So
I'm just tidying away these all this stuff that I managed to drag out earlier.
So I need to decide on my first piece of equipment
Yeah.
out of those ones there. So my 2 planes, at what point do we put the pilot into the plane, by the way? Do we choose which pilot goes in which plane now?
Yes, it's when you've so once we've actually done this bit of the what is it, choosing the flying machines, then we choose special equipment. Yeah, so I think what we do is we have to allocate the pilot. The pilot
Before we choose
each
the
player
equipment.
chooses choosing a flying machine. Place the flying machine. The place to the right chooses one of the flying machine dashboards. Okay. Each player's pilot card is placed on the pilot space on the flying machine dashboard.
Yeah, so we should do that before we choose any equipment.
Yes, we do.
So
Once we've
here,
got our,
with
with
my
a 2-player game, we allow people to choose both pilots, both flying machines before they get to that point.
Okay, so I have got an easy choice here because one of my pilots has an extra landing dice.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that into my triplane in order to deal with the issue there.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. She's falling through the board.
Okay.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'm going to put the other one that does the re-rolls into here.
Yeah.
And the helicopter doesn't have the most brilliant flying, so having an ability to keep re-rolling is probably quite useful.
Right.
So, looking at the equipment that's available so far,
Yeah.
I've already discussed what the various bits do. From having played this game a lot, I would say that the drop of courage is of limited use. Those extra dice, not really that useful. However, the improved landing gear is useful, but I have a pilot that's doing that.
Yeah.
An extra takeoff, well, neither of my planes, I mean, they've both got 5 dice for taking off, so I really don't need any help there.
Yeah.
So it's either giving my helicopter potentially an extra flying thing, which might be useful, or giving it an extra passenger seat to really add on the whole ability to move people about up and down, or of course luck is always a useful thing. I think I am going to go for the extra passenger seat
Right.
as a first thing, not least because I know that as you have a monoplane, that's a useful thing to have in a monoplane, so I might as well just deprive you of that one.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just dragging some space over here because I realise I need to also put my flying machines out and things. So I thought if I just do that lot like that, we can get our pilots out of the way over here somewhere. Just for a minute.
So we now add an extra piece of equipment.
We do.
from
If I
the-
just pull this deck down to here.
Mhm.
Oh. After that, and if we bring this down here, then I can get my flying machines out. Oh, and we can do a similar logic. Have a look at what I need. Put the equipment down there for now. Yeah. Oh, it's done the same again. There we go. So we tie those up. If we rotate them around, we can make use of the space there, can't we?
And here is your additional piece of thing. It's a shotgun.
So,
A shotgun's another one of those pieces of equipment that if you're playing with the cleaner rules, then
Yeah.
you just remove from the game.
yeah, indeed. Right, let me get my flying machines out a minute. Let's have a look what I've got. So what I've got to think about now
Got
is
to
the fact-
allocate a pilot to a machine,
I do.
first of all.
So, none of these pilots. Now, the monoplane has got 6 flying things. So I think the thing to do is to put DuPont, who is better at the... who can't catastrophically fail a flying test, actually in the other machine, who's got a little worse flying stats. And Sir Archibald Smythe, who I believe is going to do a bit of sneakiness and stuff, might need to be catching up occasionally. So he will go into the monoplane. And let's have a look at what I need. Now, stat-wise, the monoplane is not bad at taking off, very good at flying, terrible at landing. The pusher plane, 545. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, I could do with something to improve my landing things. At the moment, I've got those extra dice for the landing gear. Or do I go with the Lucky Locket that allows some re-rolls? Always quite good to have a bit of some re-rolls. in the game. So for the moment, I think I'm going to give Sir Archibald. Well, the only thing was, what piece of equipment did you take?
I took the passenger seat, and I
Alright.
just realised I need to allocate it to a plane.
You need to allocate it to plane, yeah.
Which is a bit of a tricky one, actually, deciding what to do. There's a triplane. Has a reasonable amount of space, but actually because of the way the space is arranged, it's not that handy for passengers, because you need two internal spaces next to each other in order to be able to do that. So if I take a passenger in the triplane, I can only have one spare part that's available. The helicopter has much more useful storage. So I think I'm going to actually put the passenger seat into the triplane.
Into the triplane, makes sense. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm gonna get this Lucky Locket into 80 degrees. Pop that down there for Sir Archibald's first piece of equipment. There. Okay. Next, then we need.
Take one more at the deck.
We need another bit. You're going to pop another card in. Let's see what we've got. I'll just rotate around so it's easier for us all to see what we're getting here.
The flying jacket.
Yeah, the other way around might have been easier. So we'll read it from the top. The flying jacket. So the flying jacket allows you to re-roll explosions or failure symbols on the dice.
Yeah.
Which can also be useful.
So, given that one of my characters does re-rolls,
Yeah.
obviously, and the helicopter will be the, it would be a bit pointless to have that in the helicopter.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that the helicopter has a relatively poor flying stat.
It does, yeah.
So actually I'm going to take the new wing design, which sounds a bit odd because I suppose it's a new blade design really for a helicopter, but anyway,
Yes.
just in order to
blade,
improve its flying a little bit.
Alright, so you're popping that into there. Let's see then what next bit of equipment I get here. So that is the St. Christopher, which basically means that you can't catastrophically fail. Now old DuPont can't do that anyway with flying tests. And
Eleanor Mwangi can't do it on takeoff.
Yeah. Kiddo, I'm still thinking I've got to look at it. I'm going to do things to improve my landing. So I think I will take the. Now we're choosing. Well, we're choosing for the other plane, though, aren't we? Yes. So in a two-player game, you equip one, and once you've chosen that, then the piece of equipment actually, you're choosing for the flying machine backwards and forwards.
Yes.
So I'm actually choosing for the pusher plane here, which is a good all-rounder. Not quite so good at flying along, but that's why Pierre's there. So all-round, not bad really. So anything I can do that might drop of courage is always useful, just to get extra dice in certain situations. So I will take a drop of courage and pop that into there.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So, what do
What
we
do you
have?
get back instead of it?
The floats.
You got the floats.
So, seaplanes can land and take off on water as though it was land. They get extras for that.
Yeah.
If you have floats, you similarly get extra things for water squares.
Yes.
Now, looking at that, taking off and landing, I am choosing for the triplane at the moment.
Yep.
Which has pretty good all-round stats. I've got 555 thanks to my pilot.
Yeah.
So I don't really think floats are going to get me very far. We got an extra takeoff thing that's equally not likely to get me very far. St. Christopher, flying jacket, shotgun. I think I'm going to go for the flying jacket because I'm going for the plane that doesn't have the pilot that can do re-rolls, and being able to get rid of explosion symbols is always a useful thing.
Okay. Right. So let's have a look what that leaves me with. Let's bring something else up here. Now this time, of course, I'm choosing back to choosing for the monoplane.
Sir Archibald. Well, it depends how you're going to role play this one. I mean, really. Maybe you want the shotgun.
I'm contemplating the shotgun, yes, because I think he's doing something about. He's still not very good at landing, but so that's the only other thing. Is do I play a bit safe and go with the improved landing gear? On the other hand, I'm thinking a 5 and a helicopter.
Well, of course, you're in the monoplane. You've got 3 bits of
I do,
equipment.
and I don't think you're likely to choose this piece of equipment because the helicopter's 5 and can get 2 more when they land, and the
other pilot gets an extra landing thing, so I've got 5
I suspect
again.
that one's fairly safe to leave that in the bag. The shotgun basically means if I'm in the same airspace and altitude as somebody else, once per turn I can roll to see if I can inflict damage upon them. And clearly, with Sir Archibald having been chosen, one of these pilots is I don't know, the Rotten Egg, the Cad and the Bounder. This is going to be that sort of a game. So let's pop him in there. Right, so back round to you.
Okay, let's bring out the next bit of equipment.
Yeah.
The box of tricks. Okay, so this is the thing that gives you 3 CAD symbols to use in the game. So obviously unnecessary for Sir Archibald, who's already got CAD symbols. Now I know that Richard has got 2 pilots, one of whom is Sir Archibald.
Yeah.
So I might decide to take the CAD symbols just in order to give me a bit of ability to retaliate. On the other hand, it really isn't my style of play. So I know that if I had that, would I actually get round to using it? Probably not, is the answer. So what else do we have? We have the armour plating.
Armour plating, which basically means that I think you need 2 failure marks, failure rolls in order to
actually take damage.
Actually take damage.
You can ignore 1 explosion symbol, basically.
Yes.
So you can ignore 1 explosion symbol. That's quite useful. And I'm tricking for the plane that doesn't have the flying jacket.
Yeah.
So I think I might go with that one.
All right. So that one's
So
going
I now have all the equipment that I need.
Yeah, I'm choosing one now for the push out, and then I'll be going back to the monoplane for its last slot. Some fly machines have more slots than others. Okay, the aerodynamic tail, which improves flying, could be useful for the older thing. I mean, of course, he can't catastrophically fail,
but it still doesn't get you down the course any quicker.
So that does give you an extra dice, which is going to help speeds up the old thing. I don't need to bother about the landing. I'm not going to go with the dirty approach for this particular pilot. St Christopher avoid catastrophically failing. He's partially immune to some catastrophic failure anyway. Finely tuned engine, better for taking off. Doesn't really need that. The floats. It's helpful for water things. 2 spaces there with water in. Good for making those landings. If we were doing a truly random course, and we had potentially three water spaces, that would be a bit more tempting. I'm actually inclined to go with the aerodynamic tail though, just to effectively speeds up the pusher, because as you fly along, of course, in flying machines you lose dice, and that means you're limited a bit in terms of how far you can go. Okay, and then I've got one final choice coming for, let's just see what piece of equipment comes out.
Okay, just take the last one.
Oh, you got it, yeah. I've got it, okay. Just flip that. Right, there we go. That's a superior tyres, good for landing.
Oh, and the monoplane is rubbish at
the
landing.
Monoplane is rubbish at landing, so I think that's a no-brainer, as they say.
Yes, it's better than the existing the landing gear that you can only use on 3 occasions. This is a permanent extra dice for landing.
Right.
So what we now do is we add on, see what our pilots and equipment have given us in the way of additional abilities for our planes, and put them in using these things over here. So I have a pilot here that gives me an extra landing dice.
Yep, so you go and grab one of these things and take that over and pop it in onto a stat there.
So that now gives me 5 for landing.
And over here you've got the aerodynamic wing thing.
Yep, so I need a
new
flying.
wing design, yep, and a flying symbol. So that goes into there. In Sir Archibald's flying machine, he gets an extra landing one. So that pops in there. So now I've got 3. And I get an extra flying one for Pierre's flying machine over here. We also need, now we've got the colours to cubes for fuel. Now normally you choose a colour and you would fix the base for that colour to the relevant flying machine. This particular preset that's done in here, the colours are linked, as you see. I've got them on a plane, which means I get the green. I get the green fuel cubes.
I have the helicopter, so that means I'm going to have black.
So 4, that's my 4 in there. The pusher over here. I think is over. Is it? Oh, I just grabbed it out. I just realised I did the wrong thing. That's the triplane I just grabbed, which is you, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I should give you. There we are. There's your. There we are.
I don't know. So Archibald is already up to his tricks before we've even started the game.
Let's look at that triplane. There we are. He'll have the motto. He's got the motto, which are the red cubes over here. And I think that is the pusher, which is going to be the yellow cubes. So let's just grab these. Oh, alright. Easier said than done. Far side of the course. There we are. Going to zoom in and do that. Okay, so pop those there. I'll sort those out in a minute. I think I'm going to select all of those in one go. There we go. That's a bit easier. So the other thing that we need to do is to get our initial load up done. So if you look over there on the right hand side of where your flying machines are, we've each got a little pile of bits and bobs. So I've got here
the other thing we need to do also is add on the charges for items that need charges.
Yes, okay, let's do that then. So here we've got the Lucky Locket, and the Lucky Locket has 3 spaces, so I pop the little charge markers in like that, which basically sorts that out. I don't have any charges for that. I need 3 and 3 charges over here. I just realised my aerodynamic tail there is an extra use rather than a fixed bonus. So I'm just going to put that bonus back, because it's these charges are consumed when I decide to use that extra ability. There we go.
Hang on. Oh yes.
Okay, right, so I've got all my charges. You got yours?
I've got mine.
Oh, actually only one for Sir Archibald, because he always has one on him, which is his cab marker. Okay, so the other thing we need to do, just moving those fuel cubes across, is finally just to load up the flying machine. So we each get a random one of these bits of water or mountain cargo. So what we basically need to do is to shuffle these together and sort of flip these over a minute, and there we go. Now again, easier done sometimes in the real world than in what's it, but choose one anyway. You're choosing 2 of those things. Okay,
I'll take that one, and I will take that one.
Okay, one of each. So those, and you can flip those over, and these are our starting special cargoes. One of each I've got. Okay, and finally, you've each got 2 passengers, So one for each of us, as it were. And here's your filer over here for you. 2 landing spare parts, 2 flying spare parts, like that. And there's also 2 takeoff spare parts for each of these machines. And what we have to do basically is load these up. Now, some machines have more space than others. So in the case of my Sir Archibald Smythe, he's only got 3 spaces. So he's going to be fairly limited in what he can take. He's pretty bad at landing, so he's going to take an extra landing spare part like that. I'll probably take a takeoff spare part just because it's a bit embarrassing if you can't get in the air at the start of the game and he's on a 4. And I think but that would mean I'm going to have to decide not to go with the passenger. Passengers are worth 3 points, but I have no spare space. No, Jane took the passenger seat. I might have been tempted to do that if it'd been available, but I can't risk not having any spare parts available, so I'm not going to use the passenger.
Okay.
If I look across these other bits, then are just going to get abandoned because those are just back in the spare part pile over there.
Okay, so if I have a look at my triplane,
Yeah.
it has a passenger seat, so obviously I'm going to take a passenger
Yeah,
and put
pop
them
that
in the
in there.
passenger seat.
Yeah.
So that's not taking up any other spaces that might have been usable. Then I've got a water cargo to deliver. Apart from that, well, flying symbols are always useful to have available. It enables you to get on in the game. So I think, as I've got all round similar things, but as I have for takeoff, I can't catastrophically fail. Not much point in having a takeoff spare part.
But the takeoff that allows you to repair damage.
Repairing damage on takeoff. So I've got 5 for takeoff anyway. I think a couple of flying spare parts is always handy.
Yeah.
And I am going to take a landing spare part as well, just because in general, if you fail a takeoff, even if you catastrophically fail, that's 1 damage, but then I get to automatically repair that every time I successfully take off, so that's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
Damage that I get when flying or landing is going to be real damage, so I think that's what I'm going with.
And you've got 2 more spare parts there in the hold. Spaces rather.
So I can fill these up for now on the basis that I'm going to. You can always dump spare parts as you play the game.
Yeah.
So for now, I'll take yet another.
No, you could only have That's why I remember I said at the start. Each of the flying machines has 2 takeoff spare parts, 2 flying spare parts, 2 landing spare parts, a passenger, and it's special cargo.
Right.
And it's from that you're selecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can put a landing
Yeah.
one in there.
And the other one's got to be one of your.
So it'll have to be a takeoff one.
It will.
But that will be the first thing that I ditch in favour of something else.
Okay, it's going back across to me, looking at DuPont. DuPont definitely wants some. I'm going to go with the passenger there because he's got a spare part capacity in here. He's 545. I'm going to go with the flying symbol there. I'll have a spare flying symbol in me hold. And then, similar logic to Jane, a spare landing one there. So that's me done. Let's pop my fuel markers
So my
on there.
helicopter, the good thing about the helicopter is all its spaces are internal. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. So I'm going to take my passenger, because why not?
Yeah.
Particularly because there's a place you can drop off a passenger straight out of the airfield. So that's quite good. Helicopters are good at taking off and landing lots.
Yeah.
And then flying, I am not the swiftest flyer in the world, so I'm going to take a couple of flying spare parts. And then I'm also going to include a landing spare part because although I'm pretty good at landing, again, in the game, if you land safely, then you get the first to land marker, so you also get to refuel. There's lots of good things that come from making a good landing.
Yeah.
Making a bad takeoff is not usually the worst thing in the world.
Right, so those spare parts that we didn't select, we just pop back into the supply, and the only thing that we basically now need is each three, a hand of 3 of these tricks and boost cards. The players have a hand of 3, and at the end of each pilot's go, we'll then get to draw. So we use a pooled hand of 3 for each of the players.
So there's one pilot who isn't in the presets, but we also haven't used in this game, Marco Fiorentino, because he actually gets 4 cards. So that will be a bit difficult in a 2-player game. So we haven't got him in the mix here.
Right, and we're leaving the other pilots out because they might potentially get chosen if on the middle airfield the 2-seater equipment comes out, and again the equipment gets left there because that could get changed when we get to the middle airfield. And basically we were good to go there. So we've got a situation with a monoplane, which is a bit fragile on landing.
Has got a very disreputable pilot who
who's
also has
got
some
a shotgun.
disreputable equipment.
Yeah. So he's clearly going to go for a bit of a sort of a dirty sort of game. On the other hand, DuPont here, a bit of a sort of risk taker because he can keep going in the air a bit. And so we'll see how he goes. Over here we have the old helicopter,
good at going up and down, taking off and landing.
Not so brilliant at flying along, but
we have a little bit of a boost to that one, and we do have the ability to do re-rolls, which is always very handy. And then lastly we have the triplane, good steady all-rounder with an additional person who's good at repairing damage, and is also good at enabling them to take off successfully.
So we put our flying machines onto the first space, and we will leave it there then for the for this week, and save this game down, and we will come back to this next Sunday, and we will play the game with these layouts and see how it goes.
See how far it goes. Yeah. So, okay, so that's all we've got for you today. So I hope that wherever you're doing, you're having a very good day, and we'll see you next week.